Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone that is also the ones that are following us online too. Can you hear me? Perfect, perfect. Good morning, Liburn JC, for those present and also for those who are following us online. Today marks 1 year since the last time that we participated in the exact pavilion, the NDC pavilion, to give the signal that Kosovo is going to draft the first voluntary NDC. And a year later, we have managed to actually have a very good final draft of the NDC that is currently ongoing public consultations and will be approved soon. This NDC is supported through UNDP, and it is co-sponsored both by the Ministry of Environment, Spatial Planning, Infrastructure, and the Ministry of Economy of the Republic of Kosovo. And it is multi-sectoral. It is one that looks into not only the energy sector, but also other sectors. It touches on mitigation, and it touches on adaptation too. I will be going together with my colleague who is joining us online, Ms. Anula Becha, Senior Advisor and Chief of Staff of the Minister of Economy. We'll be going more into details into policies and measures that we have outlined in the NDC. But before we do that, we have now the honor to have Minister Liburn Aliu, who's been a key figure in pushing the NDC and the NECP in Kosovo through the National Climate Change Council, present us the outline at the more high level, and then we'll go into more details. Minister Aliu, please.
Thank you very much, honorable guests, dear participants in this side event presents here and online. It's my honor to open this side event representing Kosovo as we present our first voluntary nationally determined contribution, finalized and officially committed to the international community. Last year, at COP29, we made a promise, one driven by urgency of our climate realities and the vision of a sustainable Kosovo. Today, I'm proud to share that we have kept that promise now with a comprehensive NDC that encapsulates our highest ambitions for climate action. Kosovo might be a small country, but we are committed to making a significant impact. Our NDC sets an ambition target of 16.3% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 compared to the 2016 levels, which has been potential to lower emission more than 40% in funding is secured. We may lack full access to global climate finance and multilateral support mechanisms, but we are showing the world that determination, collaboration, and a clear vision can be achieved. Meeting the demands of the climate crisis requires both bold action, and Kosovo is stepping forward, undeterred by our limitations. Kosovo's path towards sustainability is a testament to resilience and innovation. Despite a legacy of reliance on coal, we are transforming our energy sector to ensure a greener future. Our energy strategy for 2022-2031 sets a clear course for this transition with a goal to integrate 1,600 megawatts of wind and solar energy by 2031. This journey has not been easy, but the tangible steps we have taken demonstrate our commitment to decarbonizing our economy and contributing meaningfully global climate efforts. One of our most significant milestones has been our 100 megawatt solar auction completed earlier this year. This groundbreaking project exemplifies Kosovo's commitment to transparency and efficiency with a highly competitive winning bid of 48.88 euro per megawatt hour. That is 35% below our initial selling price of 75 euro per megawatt hour. We are setting a new standard in renewable energy deployment with an electronic e-auction model that has positioned Kosovo as a leader in competitive bidding and cost-efficient energy solutions in the region. In a few weeks, we will launch a 150 megawatts wind auction on the public land, supported by the IFC as our transaction advisor and USAID for technical assistance. This project uses a public-private partnership model to reduce capital costs, ensuring that the energy transition does not unduly burden vulnerable citizens. And these are concrete steps toward a sustainable and equitable future for our energy sector. Our efforts in climate mitigation extend beyond conventional renewables. Through the Millennium Challenge Corporation's Compact program, we are building a 340 megawatt hour of battery storage, a $236.7 million investment that includes $202 million grant from the MCC. By 2028, this will position Kosovo as a global leader in per capita energy storage, enhancing our capacity to integrate renewables into the grid and ensuring a stable, resilient energy supply. We are also advancing unique projects like Solar for Kosovo, which includes a 100 megawatt solar park within the Kosovo's energy generation company and an innovative solar district heating system designed to provide clean heating for approximately 60,000 citizens. This project represents a fundamental shift for Kosovo Energy Corporation, which has historically relied on coal and embodies our vision for a just transition that incorporates solar, wind, and other renewables into the energy mix. Kosovo's climate adaptation efforts are equally crucial. With nearly 65% of our territory and over 80% of our population exposed to flood risks, adaptation has become an immediate priority. In January this year, devastating floods affected over 21,500 people and displaced thousands, causing nearly 29 million in damages. Projections for the coming decades suggest that without decisive adaptation measures, our agricultural productivity, water security, and public health will be significantly impacted. To address these risks, we are investing in a critical water infrastructure, including 381 million Liburn hydro system. This project will provide essential drinking water for 500,000 people and irrigate 40,000 hectares of farmland and include mini hydropower installations that contribute to clean energy generation. Alongside this, Polota and Dragajina reservoirs will combine capacity of 140 million cubic meters of water, will ensure sufficient water for agriculture, industrial use, and public consumption. In partnership with the World Bank, we are developing additional water reservoir and an early warning flood system, and we just finished utilizing advanced LIDAR technology for precise flood risk mapping. Our partnership with Switzerland, which co-financed 15 million in innovative river basin management solution, is helping to protect water resources from the impacts of droughts and pollution. These projects reflect our commitment to a proactive adaptation strategy that safeguards our citizens, economy, and environment from escalating climate risks. Our focus on reducing emissions extends into Kosovo's transportation sector, where we are implementing transformative projects to modernize and expand sustainable transport infrastructure. Domestically, we are working to upgrade and electrify key railway routes, significantly reducing the carbon footprint of our logistic and public transport sectors. This move also aligns with our broad energy transition goals, promoting rail as a clear alternative to road-based transport. Internationally, we are enhancing Kosovo's connectivity with region and European transport networks, integrating Kosovo's transport infrastructure into a broader, sustainable framework that supports both economic growth and environmental goals. And these transportation projects underscore our commitment to lowering emissions across sectors while building economic resilience and regional connectivity. Kosovo's progress wouldn't be possible without the invaluable support of our international partners. Though we face obstacles accessing multilateral climate finance, our partnership with the United States, Germany, France, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Japan, Luxembourg, and European Union have been instrumental. Their contribution have allowed Kosovo to undertake significant projects in energy, adaptation, transportation, and sustainable development, providing that we are capable of high-impact action when given the necessary support. Through these bilateral partnerships, Kosovo is advancing, ensuring that our initiatives in renewable energy, climate adaptation, and sustainable development continue to be effective and far-reaching. Our NDC does not only focus on mitigation and adaptation, but also emphasizes a just transition for all Kosovars. We are implementing subsidy programs to help households and small businesses to increase energy efficiency, with a 40 million euros in support. Over the 40,000 beneficiaries have installed efficient appliances, thermal insulation, and PV systems, leading to a measurable reduction in energy demand and reliance on imported electricity. This program has strengthened our energy security and reduced household energy costs, creating a resilience at the community level. Another crucial aspect of our NDC is climate resilience. In partnership with UNDP and USAID, we are founding climate-smart agricultural practices, developing early warning systems, and supporting local startups focused on sustainable technologies. This approach ensures that our people and industries are equipped to adapt to climate challenge while fostering an innovation-driven economy. While Kosovo's commitment to climate action is shown through this NDC, our path is undeniably hindered by exclusion from multilateral climate finance mechanisms. Despite aligning with the goals of Paris Agreement, we lack access to the crucial funds such as Green Climate Fund, Global Environmental Facility, and Adaptation Fund. This exclusion is a challenge, but it's one that has driven us to explore the deep bilateral partnerships. However, for a true global coalition, the principles of equity and inclusion must apply universally. Kosovo's exclusion contradicts these principles and limits to our ability to scale the impactful work we are already doing. Imagine the power of Kosovo's climate action with equal access to climate finance. Our resilience, proven commitment, and ability to act would only be magnified. It's time for the global community to recognize that leaving no one behind is against climate change includes recognizing every nation's right to resources and support. Kosovo's NDC is our contribution to a sustainable future, a pledge not just for Kosovo, but as a part of global movement. Today, as we showcase the first voluntary NDC, we urge that the international community to uphold the principles upon which our shared climate goals are founded. With the right support and inclusion in global frameworks, Kosovo stands ready to expand its contribution to this urgent cause. To all of our partners who have walked with us in this journey, we extend our grateful, heartfelt gratitude. Together, we can build a future that prioritizes people and the planet, and we can ensure that the path to climate resilience leaves no nation behind. So, thank you.
Thank you, Minister. So we'll now dive into more technical details regarding the NDC. As you can see, the emission reductions that we envision the NDC, we have a potential to reduce up to 42% emissions if we do additional measures too. And we are aiming to also do at least 35% of renewables in gross electricity consumption by 2031. And the last but not least, we also aim to reduce emissions not only in the energy sector, but other sectors too, such as transport, follow, and waste. To realize that, especially to realize the 42% emission reduction, we need to secure the finances in mitigation that would be up to 4.8 billion, as we have calculated in drafting our energy strategy. But not only in the energy sector, in other sectors where we could reduce methane emissions, such as the waste sector. And in adaptation, there's a need, according to a World Bank report recently, of up to 2.8 billion for Kosovo to be able to properly adapt to the predictions that we have for the region in terms of climate models accessible for the region. So the key challenge for Kosovo right now is that although it has very ambitious policies and it has quite a lot of policies already in place and being implemented, it lacks key climate financing mechanisms, including those that are tied to UNFCCC and those that are tied to certain conventions, so multilateral funds specifically. Nonetheless, as the Minister highlighted too, we are committed to implement the ambitious climate agenda that is in place, especially now with the NDC. A little bit of introduction for those who might not know, very short about Kosovo. We are in the Mediterranean region too, so we are also exposed heavily and impacted by the changing climate. We have a very young population. We are also the youngest independent state in Europe. We have seen significant increase in many indicators in terms of the economic development in the country, being one of the fastest growing economies in the region. So we mentioned this before, as part of the Berlin process back in 2020, we signed the Sofia Declaration where we committed to look into options on how do we achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. As a result, we drafted all the legislative documents that are needed, the primary law on climate change, the laws on renewable energy, the National Energy and Climate Plan, which is, of course, informing the NDC, and other secondary legislation such as the sectorial strategies, namely the most important here, the energy strategy, and now also the voluntary and inclusive NDC. As the Minister mentioned, we are also looking at the adaptation side of policies and measures. Therefore, we are working with UNDP and USAID on drafting of the climate adaptation strategy. This is the potential we have, up to 41.8% reduction compared to 2016 levels if we have all the finances needed. Now I'm going to give the floor online to Ms. Besha to explain the measures that we have in the energy sector. I believe Anula has joined us through Zoom, so the floor is all yours, Anula.
Thank you very much, Agim. Can you hear me well? Good morning. I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Probably just the text on the chat, just so I understand.
We can hear you.
Okay, that's great. Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be able to join from Pristina. I'm Anula Becha. I'm Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor on Energy to the Minister of Economy in Kosovo. And as a ministry, we cover energy sector among some other sectors. As Agim was explaining, energy sector is one of the most responsible sectors, unfortunately, for the GHG emissions in Kosovo. In 2021, the energy sector was responsible for 92% of the GHG emissions in the country. And as such, it serves a great potential as a sector to be able to contribute in reducing these emissions. Unfortunately, these emissions come from a very old infrastructure we have inherited when it comes to the energy sector. Two very old coal power plants, one which is known as Kosovo A, almost 60 years old, and the other one, Kosovo B, above 40 years old. Both of which contribute heavily on GHG emissions in the country. Following that, unfortunately, we have an inefficient housing and building stock in the country, which serves a great potential for saving electricity. Around 40% of that is assumed to be right now. And we are a high-intensive energy country as such. Just to share some data for context, in Europe, compared to Kosovo, they use 4 times less energy per 1 unit of GDP compared to what we use in here. So there is a lot of potential to use a lot less energy than we use today to produce 1 unit of GDP. Apart from that, we have also inherited a poor district heating infrastructure, and there are not many district heating options in the country. Usually, citizens use electricity for heating purposes during winter. And that's why usually during winter we see GHG emissions increase. The air is much more polluted. And there is a lot of potential also in that regard to be able to help citizens move from using electricity during winter for heating purposes to other sources of energy. Right now, we have committed through our energy strategy and through our national energy and climate plan to basically move forward and be able to decarbonize the sector and reduce the emission intensity that we have in the country. Following these two very important documents, which have a consensus not only within the government but are also approved in our parliament, we have committed to increase the share of renewable energy to 35%. Today, we have only 10%, almost 10% of electricity comes from renewable energy. We have committed to limit the final energy consumption to 1.8 million ton oil equivalent by 2030. And we have committed to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions by 32% compared to 2016. All of these have been reflected in our national documents and are in line with also with the commitment that we have made to the Sofia Declaration and also COP28 Global Renewable and Energy Efficiency Pledge. And we do stand by it. I would like to pass on the next slide. Sorry, I cannot see the slides, but I assume you'd be able to move to slide number 7. Where we have shown some key policies that we sorry, slide number 7, please. I'm able to see the slides now.
Can you put the slides back up? The slides.
Yes, thank you. These are some of the key policies that we have planned for 2031 in our national energy strategy. And the goal was how we can increase the renewable share in the country during a period that was unprecedented. Actually, when we drafted and voted on our energy strategy, there was an unprecedented energy crisis going on in Europe as a result of the Russian aggression in Ukraine. And as we are highly dependent on imports as a country, we were faced, actually, we imported the energy crisis that Europe was facing with. We imported basically a high level of energy prices and volatile prices as well. So apart from being able to decrease the emissions and decarbonize the sector, some of our goals have been to also make sure that we ensure security of supply for our citizens, that we are able to provide affordable tariffs for them, and that this transition on our energy sector is actually a just transition for all the citizens and not only a secure one. To be able to do that, we have planned introducing around 1,200 megawatt of renewable energy by 2031, which includes a rough 50-50 share between solar and wind. So as you can see on the slide, we plan around 600 megawatt for solar PV installation, generation capacities in the country, and around 600 megawatt for wind farms. To be able to implement this, we have designed different support schemes for the private investors, as well as EPC contracts that will be developed by our public utilities. We've started this practice through the first auction that we have launched, the solar auction of 100 megawatt, which was concluded successfully this year. And the support scheme includes power purchase agreement for at least 15 years for the as a guaranteed price for the investor, 30 years of land lease agreement, guaranteed connection agreement with our transmission system operator, and very limited balancing responsibilities for the private investor. Apart from that, we are committed to increase the share of rooftop solar PV, known as prosumers in the country, to 100 megawatt. And apart from that, we are also committed to basically plan a partial phase out of our lignite power plants, so that we ensure that we have security of supply and strategic reserves during this period of transition. Moving on. Here, I mean, you can see on a sort of timeline basis our projects. As I mentioned, we have successfully concluded our first solar auction. We secured around 6 bidders, all international from Europe. We're planning on launching our 150 wind auction with a PPP component. There is another PV project of 100 megawatt in our public utility of energy known as CAC, Kosovo Energy Corporation. There is another very innovative project of 50 megawatt in CAC as well, known as solar district heating, which will help actually connect around 38,000 citizens to clean district heating. This relates to our objective of increasing district heating options for our citizens. And we have ensured 170 megawatt or 340 megawatt hour of battery storage through Millennium Challenge Cooperation Grant, which will provide balancing reserve and arbitrage capacities to our electrical system. And apart from these, next we will focus on even developing additional wind projects on public land, and we will focus on also using our regional water utilities infrastructure to be able to install more solar capacities in their own man-made canals, to be able not only to produce electricity but also preserve water from evaporation, as well as install some hydro capacities on these man-made canals, which are in line with our energy strategy, given that these are not, this will not damage the environment. These are not natural hydro resources, rather man-made canals, which we can use for additional energy capacities. If we can please move forward on the next slide. And this is my last slide for today. I mentioned in the beginning, there is a lot of potential in terms of saving electricity and energy, apart from ensuring that we're building up on our generation capacities. And this is actually one of the most no-regret investments, as actually the best investment on this sector is ensuring that you're saving energy and electricity. Our policies relate mostly to ensuring thermal renovation of buildings, which are supported either through grants or credit lines from the Kosovo Energy Efficiency Fund. Based on our National Energy and Climate Plan draft, we commit to 1.2% of all residential building to be renovated per year, 1% of all commercial buildings to be renovated per year, 3% of all commercial central government buildings to be renovated per year, and around 200 municipal buildings by 2029. These investments include residential and commercial sectors and have involved heat pumps, solar thermal systems, efficient biomass stoves, and others. We have already implemented similar schemes, both as the Ministry of Economy, but also through our Energy Efficiency Fund. This was supported by the energy support package of the EU as a result of the crisis, and was one of the reasons and one of the successful projects which show that having access to finance, actually it's imperative for us to be able to implement such measures and actually achieve the commitments and targets that we have set ourselves. And I hope that in the future we'll also have access to similar funds to be able to implement the plans that we have projected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anila. Thank you. Now we move forward to other sectors. When it comes to changes in the folder sectors, there's a lot of landfilling as it is right now. Currently, we landfill most of the waste that is present in Kosovo. There's a vision in order to achieve methane reduction, as we have signed the Global Methane Pledge. There's a vision. If we could go back to the slides. There's a vision for us to build sorting centers at every region, and then of course increase our recycling rate by 55% by 2035 and less than 20% landfilling by 2045. As a result of that, we've seen a lot of potential in our modeling to be able to reduce methane emissions by 30% by 2030 compared to 2020 levels, which will showcase in goodwill that we will also meet what we've committed in the Global Methane Pledge. And of course, it contributes significantly to the circular economy concept that we're trying to promote through the integrated waste management strategy. When it comes, and there's a lot of potential for investments in that regard too, especially with recycling centers. When it comes to reducing illegal logging, we already have started a lot of actions through the Green Task Force since the Ministry of Environment manages the national parks. There's a potential to increase significantly the good benefits of carbon sequestration if we reduce illegal logging, and also if we implement the forestry strategy, which we aim to increase forest area by 3%. For context, Kosovo is already pretty good with this. Around 11% of our territory is national parks, and a greater percentage is parks overall, forest. And of course, when it comes to the waste sector, if we aim and are able to achieve this integrated waste management strategy, we will be able to then reduce significantly not only the total amount of emissions in the landfilling in terms of methane emissions, but also in the life cycle emissions. There's going to be a lot of potential to reduce even more emissions. When it comes to the transport sector, there's a lot of work being done right now to transition from road transportation to railway transportation, both with domestic lines, which I've highlighted some of them here, but also not only focus on building or rehabilitation of new lines, but modernizing them, making them electrification of the railway lines. At the same time, there's a lot of projects that we could talk into details in terms of international lines, such as the one between Albania and Kosovo, which not only serves the region in terms of connectivity and market integration, but also is a step forward toward the decarbonization of the commerce transboundary transportation, because it replaces a lot of heavy truck transportation by allowing different entities, even those in transit, to utilize a railway system, which we connect different corridors if we implement that railway. So there's a lot of potential that we have modeled in terms of mitigation in the transportation sector with a lot of potential. Majority of those already have began. When it comes to adaptation, as Minister also mentioned before, we've doing parallel work in terms of seeing where are we at risk. Around 60% of the Kosovo's territory is exposed to significant floods. We did LiDAR mapping of the entire territory of Kosovo, and we saw that in all the scenarios we are prone to flood risks. And the idea is to be able to draft policies and measures that are compliant, or rather informed by adaptation and scientific information, So we don't go forward, as an example, and build a railway line in an area where we have potential floods. So we want to align these to create synergies between these two. So both mitigation and adaptation go hand in hand. When it comes to adaptation, we are also foreseeing that there's going to be a lot of need for us to be able to build proper infrastructure, especially for floods and droughts. We are currently heavily being informed by scientific information that is available. There's a climate model for the region, but we are now also working on a climate vulnerability assessment for Kosovo specifically, more high resolution, so we see the impacts in agriculture, we see the impacts in all sectors, and then we draft the proper policies. We already began in the government list of projects, we already began listing projects that are related to water scarcity, as it turns out that water scarcity is the main issue for Kosovo. Therefore, we, and Anula mentioned this already, we have a lot of water reservoirs in the pipeline. This will have a hydropower component too, so we want to, again, create synergies between adaptation and mitigation. But of course, these are very costly. Only for reservoirs, irrigation, and forestation, what the newest report of the World Bank sees for Kosovo is that we need finance up to 2.8 billion in order for us to be able to adapt to the climate scenarios. So while committed to looking into options for carbon neutrality, the Sofia Declaration, we have also committed voluntarily to the 1.5, indirectly to the Paris Agreement. We have potential to reduce up to 42% of our emissions by 2030 compared to 2016. It needs a lot of finance, but I think this is another point that we all want to make, that while we have a lot of policies and measures in the NDC, majority of them already in the pipeline, some of them already implemented this year, the financing needs, and especially the lack of access to multilateral finance, and not only finance, but rather also forums and knowledge sharing platforms and experience sharing really hinders Kosovo's path towards decarbonization. As a result, Kosovo has decided not to leave the world behind in terms of the commitments towards the 1.5 with this voluntary NDC. But although we have a lot of support bilaterally, there's a need to have even greater inclusion of Kosovo overall, as climate knows no borders. It's not a political issue, it's rather a global issue, it's rather a very ethical issue for everyone to be able to treat it and do our part. We are doing our part while facing a lot of threats from climate scenario that was caused historically not by us but by others. We're deciding to keep in the ground most of the lignite reserves and decarbonizing. Therefore, this voluntary NDC is a good faith that Kosovo is joining everyone else, and now we need everyone else to allow Kosovo to be part of the global community in both mitigation and adaptation efforts. Thank you so much. Heating, as Anula mentioned, there's a very creative and rather innovative project for solar to district heating. It's a solar district heating. It's first in the region. It is around 100 megawatt. And you could talk more about it, Minister.
Extension actually of the project that Kosovo has started with a cogeneration. We have thermal power plants that using coal, and for cooling these generators, it was used the water that now is used for the heating of the Pristina, district heating in Pristina. But that was still a kind of from the coal, burning coal. And so now we have this clean component that we are adding for about 60,000 inhabitants. Yes, of course. Yeah. Pristina has been using district heating, and in the past they were using just fossil fuel. Yeah, so we have stopped the fossil fuel usage for the district heating. On private sector, they are using coal. Now with this additional project for the solar of Kosovo, we are planning to install it on the areas where there are mainly residential houses that usually they use the coal for heating on the winter season.